Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from AlexMercedCoder.dev and DevNurture.com, and in this video what I want to do is talk about EJS and Express and basic using EJS in your CSS and JavaScript. So typically you're using EJS to kind of write your HTML. Okay, so you might sit there and like loop over an array and create HTML for each thing in the array using your EJS. But a cool thing you can do is you can also even apply that to your JavaScript and CSS. Let me show you some examples. So over here, I'm going to have let's say, the route. Here's the route. Okay. And what I'm going to do, so let's send over some data. Let's send over a property called red that is true. Okay. So there I have red equals true. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the file that this would render. And I'm going to put an H1 in here. Hello world. Okay, actor is not defined. Oh, yes, right. Let me get rid of this over here. That's from a previous video. Okay, we get hello world. Now, I could style this using, a static folder. Like here, I have the public folder that's set up as a static folder, and I could put CSS files in there, but I can't use EJS in this JavaScript file or the CSS file because those don't go through the EJS processor. So in that case, I just have to rely on normal CSS and normal JS. What I could do is that in this file, so actually I'm just going to get rid of all this. So HTML here. I could do a style tag, and I can do something like this. I could say, if, and then in here, because it's still in this EJS file, I can still use EJS syntax and be like, hey, if red, so if red is truthy, okay. Now this is valid. This is perfectly valid EJS, but it will stop complaining if I just do that. Equals true. Okay. But essentially I can say, hey, if red equals true, I can then say, hey, for NH4, I want to style that H1. I'm going to say H1 color red. Okay. So basically this H1 color red will show up if this is true. Because again, CSS, the EJS is just basically inserting text. So it doesn't care that I'm in a style tag or a script tag, writing JavaScript and CSS. So in this case, if I refresh the page, see it's styled red, but then if I go back to the index.ejs, oh, actually not, that one's the server EJS, and I change this to false. Okay, and then I refresh this page, then it's gonna be black again, because it depends on the variable. So I can use EJS to have like particular rules in a CSS class or rule be optional, or a whole CSS declaration be optional or altered or customized based on EJS logic. So you can do that. And I can do the same thing with JavaScript. So I could say something like, let me go back to this index EJS here. I could have a script tag. Okay. And I could do something like this, and we'll just use that same property. So if red equals true. Okay, see, I have an EJS extension in VS Code. And from what I can tell, basically, that when you use the EJS within the style and the script tags, it doesn't click that you're still technically an EJS file. So that's why it's complaining syntax-wise, because of the EJS markup. So just wondering if you see those error lens highlights. That's the reason for them. Okay. But I can use that, and then I can put in here like an alert. Red is true. Okay, so right now if I refresh the page, nothing, right? Because red isn't true. But let me go back to the server file, and let's make red true. Okay, and then I'll refresh the page, and see I get the red is true, and we see red there. So I can write JavaScript conditionally, and I can write CSS conditionally. But if you do a lot of that, that's going to end up making this index.ejs file pretty cluttered. Okay, I kind of like having the separation of concerns of having the separate CSS and JS file. but I'd still like to use the EJS. How do I solve for that? Okay, well, what you can do is you can take advantage of EJS's partials. Okay, so for example, I could create a new file called index.js.ejs, and I can move the JavaScript in there. Okay, so I'll go over here, grab the script tag, and just put it in this file right here. Okay, and then I can create a new file called index.css.ejs, and then put that in, grab the CSS, the style tag, Control X, and put the CSS in there. Now, of course, like again, I have error lens on. That might be an extension you might want to turn off, so that way you don't get all these like red lines everywhere, but that's a thing. Okay, and now what I can do is I can inject those as partials here. So I can say, hey, I want that CSS in here. So I'll just do inject my partial, include, and it's in the same folder. So I can just say, hey, .index CSS.ejs. So there's the CSS. That'll include the style tag. Include /index.js.ejs. Okay, so instead of using a link tag to link the JavaScript file, I could just link to a file that actually just does the JS and a script tag. And again, this should still work. And see, it still does. Because those get included, but now I don't necessarily clutter up one big file. I'm just bringing that over from a different file. So you can still have separation of concerns with your EJS, but still be able to like take advantage of being able to conditionally write CSS and conditionally write JavaScript or loop, say, hey, I want to write this bit of JavaScript or write the CSS class so many times based on logic that you would want to apply to it. So this opens up a whole world of what you can do with like EJS and templating. Far as like having certain JavaScript that shows up depending on a certain context, certain information being true and certain information being false, or being able to repeat certain logic for several different items. Now is that necessarily always like? I can definitely think of some use cases where you could accomplish a thing, but it might be better to just actually use front-end JavaScript. But bottom line is you now have different ways you can kind of achieve certain results and some more flexibility, and that flexibility without cluttering up your files. Okay, so yeah, take advantage. EJS allows you to do a lot of cool things. It's just another lever you can pull in figuring out how you're going to organize accomplishing the things you want to accomplish in building your site. But my name is Alex Merced from AlexMercedCoder.dev. Have a great day and enjoy. I'll see y'all later.